But we had TTK Prestige that announced a stellar set of Q4 earnings. You saw a sharp surge come in the stock price as well. To talk more on the earnings and the way forward, we were joined by the chairman of TTK Prestige, Mr. TT Jagannathan. Good morning, Mr. Jagannathan. Thank you for joining us on ET now. Let's talk about your earnings and also the way forward. So while your Q4, you've reported a really strong growth. Talk to us about the impact actually are you seeing of the second wave in your Q4 numbers? I beg your pardon, Q4 sales, Q1 sales.
No, repeat that question, please. Can you repeat that? I can't hear you.
That your Q4, you've seen a strong growth come in. Right, Mr. Jagannathan, I'm repeating the question for you. While your Q4, you actually reported a strong set of growth. We've actually seen the second wave of COVID-19 have an impact from Q1 onwards. Are you seeing any impact on your Q1 sales?
Yes, obviously, there is almost a nationwide lockdown, and there is an impact on Q1 sales. In fact, the lockdown is even more severe this time because even e-commerce companies are not allowed to work.
Right. Also, let's talk about your margins. Despite the increase in the commodity prices, the margins have actually remained strong. Could you tell us, will this margin levels be sustainable going ahead?
It should be sustainable if we achieve the top line. We've taken price increases for the cost increases, and commodity prices have started easing a little bit. So I don't believe there are any further price increases required for now.
Okay, that in fact, Mr. Jagannathan, this is Alex here. Thanks so much for joining in. That in fact answers the question that I was going to ask. You've seen price hikes in the fourth quarter as well as in the current quarter. I was going to ask if it was sufficient. You said that that is in fact the case. But I want to go back to the answer that you gave us for the first question, which is to say that you are seeing a significant impact in the first quarter. And you're saying that this time the limited lockdowns state-wise are actually worse than they were in the first phase where you had a nationwide lockdown. What is the kind of impact that you expect for your earnings in the current financial year, if you can quantify that for us?
Alex, I did not use the word significant. I said there is, of course, effect of the lockdown. We will actually grow the first quarter from last year. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, from bad to worse to better. But the year I can't predict. Maybe the lockdown will last in September till October. I don't know.
So, having said that, give us a sense of how you see demand panning out, and hopefully the signs that we're seeing, Mr. Jagannathan, and what we're hearing is that we've hit the peak of the second wave of the pandemic. Cases coming down currently around 2 lakh per day. Hopefully, with the vaccination drive gathering momentum, maybe the second half will be significantly better, right? And you have a lot of pent-up demand that also could come in. Give us a sense of how you're seeing demand in the various geographies that you're playing in.
God bless you, Alex. I hope what you say comes true.
Could you give us a sense of the demand scenario that you're forecasting or that you're expecting for the current financial year?
You see, you're talking about vaccines. Nobody knows what's happening to vaccines.
Can you tell? Absolutely, that's actually true. So forecasting would actually be a little difficult at this stage.
Yes.
Give us a sense though of the breakup of revenues. Now, if you were to talk about the revenue share that you would normally get from tier 2, tier 3 and from the rural sales, would you say that on account of the way that the pandemic has panned out in the second wave, it's going to have a bearing on the kind of mix that you will see?
It will certainly have a bearing. What bearing it will have, I don't know. The current wave, second wave, is a black box. Nobody seems to know.
Absolutely right, Mr. Jagannathan. Also, that brings me to my next question. Given that a lot of us are at home, we've seen localized lockdowns as well in many part of the countries. I wanted to know about the e-commerce channel. What sort of proportion of your revenue actually comes from e-commerce channel, and what sort of pace of growth are you actually witnessing on that particular front?
Actually, in the last quarter, the e-commerce sales dropped to 20% of our sales because of the fact that all shops had opened. So the shop sales went up. So naturally, the e-commerce sale came down. We'll have to wait and see how it works out in the next year, in this year.
Any trend that you're seeing already in Q1, Mr. Jagannathan, that you could share with us?
Pardon? I didn't hear that question.
I was asking if you could share any trend in the e-commerce pattern with us, especially for Q1, if possible.
Well, again, in Q1, e-commerce is doing very well. It's 50% of our sales, but our sales are very low.
Understood. Mr. Jagannathan, if you were to look at the Q4, and this is something that I think a lot of people are alluding to, is that a lot of companies have actually shown resilience, and a lot of companies have actually managed to stay afloat and of course do well in this terrible phase that we are currently in. What, according to you, stood out in the performance of the fourth quarter for your company?
I would say three things. One, our manufacturing efficiencies improved fairly dramatically. Two, our collections in the market improved dramatically, and our margins increased due to price increase.
Right. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time and for taking us through not just the Q4 earnings, but also whatever you've managed to tell us about the current scenario. It is really difficult to predict what the impact will be. Hopefully things will improve, and well, we'll see you very, very soon.